This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, show number 293. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation coffee out of my Black Spire Outpost mug that I'm sure we'll talk about very, very soon. This is a quick show. It's not a secret show. It is a special show, though, because while this week is an exciting week with a lot going on from the D23 Expo, you're going to get two shots of Coffee with Kenobi this week. One of them is going to be the D23 recap, sharing my interviews with the Imagineers behind the future Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, Daniel Kennedy, who's in charge of events for Lucasfilm, and so much more. But for this show that you're hearing right now, we've got the A-Team in here to talk about the D23 Sizzle Reel for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Of course, I'm going to bring him in now. You know him and you love him. First, let's bring in Cory Clubb.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Cory, of course, is the co-creator of Coffee with Kenobi, the award-winning designer, and an all-around dapper fellow.
Thank you.
Speaking of dapper fellows, we've also got your CWK newsman. You know him as, I don't even know what kind of nickname I'm going to give you, so we're just going to bring in Tom Gross.
All right. Well, it's great to be here, and boy, it's always just a pleasure and an honor to be on with both of you. So this is great. Looking forward to it.
So I've got just a couple of key points. This is what I've written down. I have a look back at the saga, which of course is referring to the beginning of the sizzle reel. Starships galore, C-3PO, Rey and Kylo duel, and saber toss. And the last thing I have on there is, of course, Dark Rey. So let's try to break these down in order. Normally, Cory, of course, we try to do like a top 5, but there's only like 35 seconds of new footage, so that would kind of be counterproductive. We'll save that for the first, or for the trailer, the full trailer that's going to air whenever that does air. But first, let's talk about how they look back at the saga at the beginning. And I can talk really briefly about what it was like to see this at the D23 Expo, but I'll say that towards the end. So guys, Tom, let's start with you. What do you think of the beginning before we got to the new footage where they kind of went back through all the movies?
You know, when I was watching that, I felt like I was watching a documentary and looking at the history and the past, and it was so like, I don't know, it gave me goosebumps as I was watching it. And then when Luke starts telling, it starts that speech, we passed on all that we know. I couldn't help but notice when he says, we passed on all we know, we went from the original trilogy to the prequels. And I felt like this is the history that they're telling, and they're sharing with Rey. And then, of course, when he says, this is your fight, then we get the first image of Rey in that, what I would call a documentary history type feel to the opening. And so I thought it was really well done. For me, it was totally unexpected. And so it had me on the edge of my seat right away.
What about you, Cory?
Yeah, that's a good visual aid there. I think when you said they switched over to the prequels, with Luke's voiceover there, I think I hadn't thought about that way. I'll have to go back and watch that again and look for that moment. It was, they do such a good job of like kind of focusing on characters and key moments, and just kind of bringing you like. I'm always impressed when I hear the stuff that like, man, we've had a lot of Star Wars, like just not for the original movies, the prequels, Rogue One, Solo. It's. And then, like you said, the music kind of is soared up kind of with each introduction of each of those films kind of bumping into each other and kind of, it was a nice kind of consumption, if you will, of the saga thus far and what we know so far. But I was just like, man, we do have a lot here. There's, for the feature films. And so it was a nice kind of breath of fresh air to kind of get you back in the saddle. I feel like this to me is like, okay, we're going in. This is Star Wars season now, and we're diving back into another film, and it'll be this way, I think, till basically we see the Rise of Skywalker, the last of the trilogy, sequel trilogy, in December. So I think this is the moment we are kind of, gearing up, getting on the horse, and like, okay, ready, starting gate, ready to take off. So this is it. This is that moment.
Dan, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick here, because I can't wait to hear what it was like to be there. But when I juxtapose this with the timeline that they posted at this, about, I'm assuming at the same time, it really takes that concept that Cory, you were talking about, of the history and the depth of how much story there is. That really, when I looked at the image and I watched this trailer, it was a little breathtaking.
Yeah. Well, the timeline you're referring to aired on Friday at the Disney Plus presentation. Saturday was when we had the Walt Disney Studios movies panel, basically. So there's about a not 24-hour difference because the Disney Plus one was in the evening and the movie stuff was during the day. But yeah, there is some definite things there. So when this first started, that was the first thing was Lucasfilm at the panel. And I thought, oh, we're starting off with Star Wars right away. Okay, that's fine. This is my main thing I wanted to see anyway. And the lights dim, and it was a look back. And I thought, well, okay, I've seen, 500 looks back at the Star Wars saga. So I was prepared to be underwhelmed. And then the music that they used, the beautiful sweeping music that we heard from previous trailers, it kind of like sucked me in. I found myself thinking, okay, that's from Star Wars. Okay, that's from Star Wars. That's from Empire. Oh, they went back to, now they're on Jedi. Now they're going back to Empire because the Boba Fett thing was from Jedi. And I found myself thinking about where the different scenes and sequences were. And then I kind of had this feeling like, ooh, this is like very nostalgic, which of course Star Wars is built on, besides hope, of course. And then I realized, wow, this is emotional because this really is the end of the Skywalker saga. Like this really, really is the end of this story. And they're hitting some key points. And then it goes dim and it says this December. And I thought, okay, here we go. And so then we jump into the initial stuff. So let's talk about, I wrote down starships galore because the two things we see first are some X-Wings and there's some B-Wings and Y-Wings and A-Wings and other ships popping out. And I haven't looked at the frame in about 24 hours. So I can't remember if there any Corvettes in there or not.
There's a Corvette in there. Mm-hmm.
Is the Falcon in there? I can't remember.
I don't recall that. No, I don't recall that either. But you see that, and then it switches over to a massive, massive amount of Star Destroyers. One thing I pointed out to Mason, because when I showed this to Mason after I got back from D23, we watched it like 6 times in a row. He just couldn't stop. And even Deanna watched it twice in a row, which I didn't expect. So that was pretty fun. Cool. But what you probably noticed about the Star Destroyers, or maybe you didn't, is these are not First Order Star Destroyers.
No,
these are Galactic Civil War era Empire Star Destroyers.
Good,
which is interesting. Pickup. So I thought, I still love how the S-foils open in the Resistance X-Wing versus the original. Just cool. It just looks slick, and I thought, oh, cool. Looks like we've got some of the band back together. The Resistance was in pretty bad shape at the end of The Last Jedi.
Yep.
So that was nice to see. Anything jump out for you guys about that?
That was my first thought when those pop out of hyperspace like that. It's okay. Recruitment efforts, success. Well, to a limited scope by that image, right. But there's more than just a dozen people on the Falcon.
Right.
Yeah, I've always, I guess, struggled with the fact that like there's almost unlimited resources for the New Order or the Empire, whatever we're calling themselves this time.
First Order, yeah.
First Order, what was I? Last Order? I don't know.
You said the New Order. That's like Order? WCW wrestling.
It is, yeah. No, it's somewhere else. No, I was doing impactful. Like, man, they've just got resources upon resources at this. Like, there's never necessarily lacking any troops, starships, or weapons, or technology. I feel like they just got the upper hand almost every single time. And like you say, we see the small band of rebel ships or rebellion ships kind of fly in. Then a massive amount of opposing forces that just like, oh, obviously they're going to be outnumbered. It doesn't make sense. It's just, I find it so fascinating, the fact that like what is going on, that they get to, I don't know, have the advantage almost every time.
And some of that, I totally agree, because it can get a little frustrating because you're like, come on, give these guys a break. They cover it really well in a lot of the novels. Bloodline explains how they first get their money. The First Order does. Now they're secretly funded. Foolishly funded, why people can't seem to learn from their mistakes, but that's kind of like history is like anyway in real life. And then the new book, Black Spire Outpost, does some great stuff of showing how the Resistance starts to get back together. But it is mysterious how they're going to portray that in the film version itself. Let's move over to, and there are others. I mean, we get the first scene is Poe and Rey and Finn and Chewbacca and C-3PO coming down this desert embankment and seeing all kinds of people that they're clearly, I don't know, they seem to be on the side of good. But then it switches quickly, and I don't really know what we could say about that other than that was a beautiful looking shot. Then we switch to C-3PO, and of course he has red eyes. Now, anybody who's read the Karen Gillan's Darth Vader series or Dr. Aphra, you know, what are you going to think? You're going to think about
000, right?
000, yeah. Exactly. And what's the other droid's name? The murderous droid? Yeah, BT.
BT something?
Yeah. So is C-3PO going bad? I don't know. I'm not going to ruin our speculation rule, but it certainly was a shock. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to that embankment photo of the Rebel forces, the thing that caught me on that one is what we saw in The Last Jedi was a lot of space strategy, space kind of battles, if you will. This seems like this is more planet-based, and they're all on land. We saw also on the original trailer for The Rise of Skywalker where they're kind of speeding along on speeders and, you know, blasting back and forth. We see some new characters in that shot, too, I think. I mean, I'm ahead of myself, but it just seems like there's more of it's a ground force in some respects, but also a space force. Space force, yeah, I guess I don't know how that works, but it's just interesting to see where they're going to tell the story. Where we saw that in Return of the Jedi was there was a ground movement and a space battle going on at the same time. So it's interesting to see that play off of that as well. So I'm just pointing back to what we've already seen and how that kind of mixes into this film.
One thing that I felt when I saw that C-3PO sitting forward with the red lenses in his eyes was just I had that feeling of sort of that hidden menace, a transition to evil, and I felt like that maybe C-3, again, not trying to speculate, but just that has someone used C-3PO to subvert this trusted protocol droid who has always been so loyal. Is he somehow going to, betray the Resistance or something like that? And so I had that feeling, that underlying feeling of wow, that didn't feel right, But one thing I wanted to mention about where they're standing on top of that ledge and they're looking over that city in the desert planet was I paused at that sort of pose where you have Rey and Finn and Poe Dameron standing in front with Chewbacca and 3PO in the back. And what made me, is there someone else in that picture too? I can't remember now, but what it made me feel is the old order is gone. C-3PO and Chewbacca have lasted from the prequels through the original trilogy and now through the second trilogy or the third trilogy, but they are in the background. And this is a new Resistance. This is a new rebellion, and it's complete. There's no Leia. There's no Han. There's no original rebellion here left, at least in this shot. And so I paused it just to look at that and make that realization that this is 100% their story now.
Yeah. Although you didn't remind me that we do get a shot of Carrie Fisher as Leia Organa, which
looks great.
Nice. That got a nice ovation inside the arena.
Oh, sure. That's good. That's cool.
And it is BT1 technically, but 000 and BT1. It was an interesting surprise, but that was also surrounded by a sequence of a planet being completely blasted by this massive red. I mean, you can't help but think blast. It makes you think of Starkiller Base or the Death Star.
Yeah.
So, but then that also illuminates C-3PO, and then we see his red eyes, which matches that blast. So you're thinking, all right, this is dark. This is destruction. Good is bad or good looks to be in trouble because of bad. And you wonder, gosh, this is heavy stuff, then we lean into, the hero of this saga, which is Rey. I mean, it's undoubtedly Rey. She's the main character, the main focus. And she does this incredible thing where she tosses her blue lightsaber, which is, of course, Anakin's and Luke's, and it cuts down these different trees, which was a great sequence. I really could have used that over the summer when I was getting rid of stuff behind our house. And then it comes back to her, and she catches it with one hand. In her other hand, there's some sort of a red, like not tissue paper, but some sort of red thin paper wrapped around her wrist.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think of that?
So I happened to pause it on that moment, Dan, that you're speaking of, that she's training. And for some reason, we were talking about it at work, and I paused that moment. We stopped. We were talking about it. And I paused it, and as the lightsaber is coming towards the camera, there's a small little sphere that I can see.
Of some sort, yeah.
Probe droid of some sort, harkening back to Luke training. And I could only think of that red cloth as maybe she's blindfolded herself, or she's training similar to what Luke has taught her to train. Close her eyes, get it come into herself type thing. And that's only pulling from what we know so far. And she's training that way. She's chopped down some trees, doing some nice shrubbery work, and also, sharpening her skills.
Can we take a... Go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, the one thing I got from that, I didn't pause it. I just appreciated it for what it was. And what I took from it was her skills are complete.
Ooh, with that, let's take a real quick break and hear from one of our sponsors. We're back. Now, obviously, we're going to spend the rest of the show on the money shot, which everyone is talking about. I do want to ask you both really quickly what you thought of the Episode 9 teaser poster.
So right away, I mean, I'll say from my perspective, having seen it, it looks really great, really cool. It almost looks like they're fighting. I thought they were fighting in space. I was like, well, that's kind of weird that they'd be fighting in space or outside of a ship of some sort. How would they breathe? But then I got looking and I go, oh no, it's just kind of like it's them in transition somehow. And then we see, I didn't even notice the Emperor in the background. If you guys haven't seen that, it's like a giant Emperor face, his eyes. And honestly, I think they could have done better with the eyes and the Emperor's face. Maybe they're trying to, make it more, hidden. But it seemed like it was almost CGI'd, or almost looked like it was just animated in there somehow. Not necessarily a makeup or something like that, or a photo, if you will. Or use a photo reference of some sort. But
I know what it looks
I don't know.
like Clone Warsy Emperor type.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't know if that was like put in afterwards, or if they're saying, hey, we want some kind of Emperor something in here. We want him, looming, or whatever the case be, whatever the art direction was for that. But this was obviously a teaser poster. They don't want to give all the secrets away. So maybe we're just kind of hit with, if you remember back to the Avengers Endgame trailer, they showed a lot of different things that you couldn't really see in the final film. So I think they're maybe going that way with it. They're showing a couple of things that like, hey, this could be a possibility. Who knows? And is one of those things like, yes, we already know that the Emperor is a presence there, and they're just saying, hey, he is a presence in this film, and this is how we're going to show him in this poster.
Tom?
My initial reaction when I saw this was, I had very similar feelings as to what both of you had, as far as like, this looks like, something from the Clone Wars. I thought it looked like a video game poster. And I'm not real sure why, other than I think it's the Emperor's, in the background, or whatever that is, where it's above, but behind the main action of the poster. So that's what I got from it. With that said, I absolutely love it. I think it's beautiful with the red lightning and the blue lightning, and then the Emperor like observing this battle of some sort on wreckage. It's just, and to be honest with you, this is exactly what I would have expected after knowing what I know from the original trailer we caught at Celebration.
So I think it is amazing and one of the best pieces of Star Wars art that I've ever seen in my life. I think
excellent.
Yes.
Wow.
So when Kathleen Kennedy shows it on the screen, she said, "You're all going to get one." I thought two things at exactly the same time. Oh, of course, we're at a panel. That's what they do. And two, yeah, I get this poster. It's awesome. And when I showed it in the screen, because I was they were very, very, very strict about you can't take out your phones to do video or take any pictures during this presentation or you're going to be asked to leave. And I thought, I worked way too hard and too long to make the connections I have with Disney.
Yeah.
I am not going to screw this up. And they said, but get your laptop out. You can tweet with that. So that's what I did. So as soon as they popped up, I glanced at it really fast and I started tweeting. I got to look at the keyboard. I'm not a court reporter. I can't just look into space. I had to really stare at those keys, baby. And all of a sudden they're starting to show the thing. And so I didn't really get a good look at the poster. So when we left and there was this, and I put on our Instagram stories, there was a big mass of people going towards these posters and they came with a poster. It was like this big clear piece of paper and it had the episode 9 poster, it had the Frozen 2 poster, and it had the Onward Pixar poster. So I had all three of them in there.
Oh, cool.
And that was when I noticed the Emperor's face. And I thought, again, two things at the same time. One, it does kind of look like a little bit Clone Wars-y, but boy, is it scary and creepy and sweet. The Emperor's going to have a huge role. I am so excited. And I like the fact that it looks like it's like a reverse Pride Rock from The Lion King, but it's artificial, just like this connection that Rey and Kylo Ren have. If you look at it more closely, he is on the right, which typically is sometimes referred to as good. He's also on the high ground, which of course Star Wars fans know a lot about. But the blue and red lightning, the way they coalesce together, very much looks like we've got balance in the Force, because true balance is equal parts. And while the Emperor is looking at both of them pretty much from the same point of view, it's hard to know. I mean, Kylo Ren is bent down like he's a defensive lineman about to rush the quarterback. And Rey has got her arms up like she's about to swing at a fastball and hit a home run. And, I'm going to stop with the sports metaphors there, but I just think I'm not going to read too much into it other than the fact that I think after we see this movie, it may fill itself in. Because when you look at the episode 8 poster, teaser poster, with Rey holding up her lightsaber similar to the original New Hope poster, that doesn't reveal all that much of The Last Jedi. So it might just be beautiful and exciting. It certainly worked for me. You guys want to talk about that anymore? Or we're going to transition to Dark Rey.
Dark Rey.
Let's move on.
Dark Rey. So when that sequence happened, first it went dark. You heard the Emperor speak, and there was just this wonderful, quiet anticipation in the room. It was so kinetic. It was almost like the hairs on your arms would kind of stick up. And then you heard this weird pause noise, and then you heard Vader's breath, which caught me instantly. And then they show the sequence of Rey in dark robes with her skin is close up, almost artificial looking. And then she pops up this very unusual looking red dual lightsaber that first looks like two claws sticking up, and then she flips it out, which, by the way, as Lisa pointed out on Twitter, is very similar to what the Temple Guards have in the Clone Wars.
Yes.
So, and I, when it happened, everyone screamed and clapped, and I took my hands and I slammed them on my lap, and I yelled, "Come on, no!" Like I was yelling and arguing balls and strikes during a World Series game with the Cubs, which doesn't sound like going to happen this year. Because I was like, "Come on, don't turn it bad!" And then I was so happy they would take such a risk or a move like that. Now, I've been asked so many times, is Rey going to turn bad? Is Rey bad? Is this Dark Rey? I don't know. I saw 2 seconds of something on screen. I mean, we know that Star Wars likes to use things in caves, both in The Last Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back, and the Force can play tricks on you, in essence, because it can reveal possible future. So I have no idea what it means. All I know is that it kicked up the anticipation and excitement for me up a notch. And I thought of you, Cory, because a year ago you said, really, what stories left to tell? I can't imagine you feel that way now, though.
Oh, that's a good point. I had forgot I had said that. Let me just go back in time and reverse that. No,
it's fair. It's totally fair.
It's interesting because we know so little, right? This is kind of out of left field. Now, how I kind of encountered this was we hadn't seen the sizzle reel yet. It was, I think, Saturday-ish, and people had seen it.
You guys didn't see it till Monday, I think. That's
right. So I'd only seen like a small description, and I thought, I'm not going to read it. All I heard was Luke's voiceover says, we all know what we have seen or whatever it was. And I thought I'm going to stop reading here because I assume this will probably come out sometime and I'll just enjoy it that way. And so I got to work and watched, like I said, well up to this point. And I was staying with a friend of mine and this happened. And I was like, whoa, similar to what you had kind of like, it was just kind of, what's happening here, and similar to what you had mentioned, Dan, that this is not unlike Star Wars at all. I mean, this is totally in the vein of Vader, or Anakin, totally in the vein of Luke. Just seeing, almost the dark path that can happen. Like I said, we've seen visions in the past. We've seen them verse each other in the past. We've seen, there's all kinds of things running around it. Like I said, we don't want to speculate till, it comes down to it. But like you, Dan, instantly my friends are turning to me saying, dude, what does that mean? And my kids came up, had seen it that day and they came up and said, Dad, is that Dark Ray? Who is that? Well, what's going on? And I really had to be like, I don't know. I don't know. I have my thoughts, I have my theories, but I want to keep those quiet to myself because I want to be surprised. One last thought that I had was a friend of mine. He was a big Star Wars fan. He drinks out of a Star Wars coffee mug every day, and I was like, "Hey, have you seen the new Sizzle reel?" And he says, "No, I haven't seen it." I was like, "Oh, you got to see it. There's some really great stuff in it." He said, "Actually, I'm not going to watch it. I've sworn off social media at this point because I want to be able to go enjoy the film." And I thought, wow, this early in. Yep. I thought, I had to stop myself and think, do I want to see more, or is this good for me right now? I'm teetering on the idea of maybe I'm going dark early. I'm going to go side of Dark Ray and close myself off from the dark side.
You're still going to Triple Force Friday, though, right?
Oh, well, sure, absolutely. I mean, yes, but I think I just need to scale back the online navigation and such, so that, because we have what is it? It's September, so we got 3-ish months before we actually see the film, and I mean, there's a slew of ideas that will just pop out from everywhere, and I just need to consume it at my own pace, and I think this is a great point for me to just kind of say, okay, I'm ready to see the film now because I want to be surprised. And because this film is going to be such a landmark in the Star Wars saga. Yeah. And really it's going to set the mood for, whatever comes next.
Yeah. Tom, real quick before we wrap up.
Wow, yeah. Just a few things on that. Just the experience of first seeing that on Monday morning. Dan, you came to me and all you said was, "It's dropped."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
And so should I watch it now? I said, yes.
Yeah, and,
awesome.
and you followed me. You followed me right in. So a couple things with that. I knew I was going to see something special. So we watched it, and I remember taking it all in, and I was. When that moment came, when it's Rey in the robes with the red lightsaber, and she swipes that thing open. Wow, it was so, I guess, unexpected, but expected. What was unexpected about it was what I saw, but what was not unexpected was that Lucasfilm or whoever creates this trailer was going to do something like that to me. I guess I knew. It's like when you walk through a haunted house. You don't know where the scares are going to come from, but you know you're going to get scared. And it was just that. I was waiting to see what is going to make my jaw drop, and that was it, of course. And so I have to say, in watching the trailer since, it's what I try not to pay too much attention to, because I have no idea what it means. And I don't even want to think too deeply about what it means. Right. And when people say, "What do you think about Dark Ray?" And I just say, I don't know. I don't know what to think about Dark Ray, because it's wonderful. It's fantastic. It surprised me. And that is what's going to make me want to go see this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the shocks for me is you see the dual red blades and you think, oh, this is a new design. Wait a minute. She's holding red. Wait a minute. Then the way it unorthodoxically flips and this really weird, awkward mechanical rhythm, It's perfect because it's an awkward lightsaber for an awkward scene that you're just not expecting. And I think the way that I mean, if it had ignited the way Darth Maul did in episode 1 the first time, it wouldn't have the similar punch to your head.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
good point.
Because that's more graceful, and this was not graceful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was for what it was, but it was so unexpected and meaningful.
Well, it makes sense to me that I mean, we see Rey and The Force Awakens with a staff, so it's almost like, well, this makes sense for Rey to have a double-bladed lightsaber like this, and you know, like you said, it almost folds open like a pocket knife. And I like your distinction between that and Maul's lightsaber and how that ignites for the first time, because it really catches you off guard, and that's what they're going for. I mean, as kind of chinky as it is, you know, it doesn't seem practical to like fold open that way. I mean, you know, move your leg out of the way in case you want to slice it in half. But you know, it's just unique. It's very mechanical. It's very vacant.
Vacant. Her expression too.
I was gonna say expression goes along with it. It's just very poised, focused, dark. Just dark is the overarching word here. And man, whoa, what a great scene to end on.
It's great, and there's a little behind the scenes that you're not usually only can get on CWK pour over. But when Tom and I watched it together, I was just so excited to see, because I love experiencing it through other people's eyes. And when it was done, Tom laughed, not because it was funny, but more like a shock, right? Like a shock laugh. And I explained that to Mason. I don't know how it came up, but I told Mason, and he must have asked me 4 times that night, "Why did Tom laugh at that?" And I said, because he didn't think it was funny. I said, sometimes people laugh when they're surprised or don't really know what emotions to feel.
Right.
You know, and I think that is perfect, because that, I think, how a lot of fandom felt. And I posted a tweet about it from the event, from Coffee with Kenobi's Twitter account, saying, "I can't believe what I just saw." I used a lot of capital letters, which I almost never do. I heard Darth Vader breathing, and then Rey has a double-bladed red lightsaber. And you know, of course, we got a lot of reaction to that on Twitter, because I couldn't believe it. And I didn't know if you two had seen it. And honestly, I was so busy running all over the place anyway that I didn't get a chance to check in with you both. But part of me thought, well, if they saw it, they're going to let me know, or maybe we'll just wait until Monday when they can see it together. And you did, and it was great. So, guys, this is a really quick one, an espresso shot to honor our good buddy Rob Wainford from the Bearded Trio. Remember, Corey, when he used to do those espresso
That's right.
shots?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. This is a quick one, just a bonus episode, because there's some stuff I'm gathering from the D23 Expo that's not quite ready yet, but I still want you all to have a Coffee with Kenobi to listen to on Thursday, and I can't think of better people to get to talk about this D23 Sizzle Reel than the awesome Cory Clubb and Tom Gross. So, gentlemen, if people don't know, where can they find each of you and your insights into Star Wars, popular culture, grilling, cycling, all that great stuff? Tom, let's start with you.
Yes, on Twitter, you can catch me at Draftline. That's DRAFTLINE, or drop me an email, tomg@coffeewithkenobi.com.
And Corey.
Sure, on Twitter at Cory Clubb, just like it sounds. And then you can email me, CoryC@coffeewithkenobi.
And I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to and contributing to Coffee with Kenobi. It is so much fun to be able to break down this saga with my friends here, and all of you listening who are, of course, friends of ours. No, you're not friends. You're Star Wars family, and we appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you for joining us for 293 for this very quick special episode. Look for Coffee with Kenobi show number 294 very, very soon, where we'll have some behind the scenes of the D23 Expo, some great interviews, and a recap with Drew Taylor of some of the big events happening inside the arena. So until next time, everybody, thank you again so much. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.